Welcome back, legends, to another Budfellas educational deep dive. Today we're covering a topic that causes confusion, frustration, and a lot of misinformation in the cannabis world: why bud rot happens. Bud rot is one of the most misunderstood plant issues because it often appears suddenly, destroys weeks of progress, and is frequently blamed on the wrong causes. This episode is purely educational and focuses on plant biology, environmental science, and fungal behavior, not on instructions or cultivation techniques. As always, this content follows UK law and YouTube guidelines. We're explaining what bud rot is, why it occurs, and how it develops from a biological perspective. Before we jump in, remember, this channel is for viewers over 18, and our content is purely educational. We're not here to promote or encourage illegal activity. In the UK, cannabis cultivation remains illegal without a license. What we are doing is learning plant science and helping beginners avoid common mistakes. Quick update. We've just launched the Budfellas Telegram community, connecting growers and enthusiasts from around the world. It's legal-focused, all about networking, plant science, and shared experience. Links in the description. To understand bud rot, we first need to understand what it actually is. Bud rot is not a single disease, but a symptom caused most commonly by a fungal pathogen called botrytis cinerea. Botrytis is a naturally occurring fungus found almost everywhere in the environment. It exists in soil, air, plant debris, and organic matter. On its own, botrytis is not dangerous. It only becomes a problem when environmental conditions allow it to colonize living plant tissue. Bud rot develops internally before it becomes visible. This is one of the reasons it is so devastating. The fungus usually enters the plant through microscopic openings, damaged tissue, or areas of trapped moisture deep inside dense flowers. Once inside, it begins breaking down plant cells, feeding on sugars and organic compounds. By the time symptoms appear on the surface, the infection has often been developing for days or even weeks. Moisture is the primary trigger for bud rot. Fungal spores require moisture to germinate. High humidity, condensation, and stagnant air create the perfect environment for spores to activate. Dense cannabis flowers are especially vulnerable because they trap moisture between bracts and sugar leaves. This creates microclimates where humidity is much higher than the surrounding air. Another critical factor is airflow. In nature, wind helps dry plant surfaces and disrupt fungal growth. When airflow is limited, moisture lingers. This allows fungal spores to settle and germinate. Bud rot thrives in environments where moisture is present but evaporation is slow. From a biological standpoint, the fungus exploits stillness. Temperature also plays a role. Botrytis prefers moderate temperatures, typically between cool and warm ranges rather than extremes. These temperatures often coincide with late flowering periods, which is why bud rot commonly appears near the end of a plant's life cycle. As plants mature, their flowers become denser, increasing the risk of internal moisture retention. Plant structure contributes heavily to susceptibility. Dense, compact buds provide more internal surface area for moisture to collect. Large flowers with tightly packed bracts restrict airflow inside the bud itself. This means that, even if the surrounding environment seems acceptable, conditions inside the flower may be ideal for fungal growth. Bud rot is often mistaken for nutrient problems or senescence. Early symptoms can look like yellowing sugar leaves, wilting, or dull coloration. As the fungus progresses, affected areas turn brown or grey and become soft or crumbly. In advanced stages, a grey or fuzzy mould may be visible. This visible mould is actually the reproductive structure of the fungus, releasing more spores into the environment. One of the biggest misconceptions is that bud rot is caused by poor cleanliness alone. While hygiene matters, botrytis spores are everywhere. The real determining factor is whether conditions allow those spores to grow. Even perfectly clean environments can experience bud rot if moisture and airflow are not balanced. Another misunderstanding is blaming genetics alone. While some strains are more resistant due to looser flower structure, no cannabis plant is immune. Genetics influence susceptibility, not inevitability. Loose, airy buds dry more easily, reducing risk. Dense buds increase risk, but they do not guarantee failure. Stress also increases vulnerability. When plants experience stress, whether from environmental fluctuations, physical damage, or internal imbalance, their natural defenses weaken. Stressed tissues are easier for fungi to colonize. Micro-damage too. Plant tissue creates entry points for spores. Bud rot also spreads internally rather than externally. Unlike surface molds that grow outward, botrytis often works from the inside out. This is why removing visibly affected areas does not always stop progression. The fungus may already be established deeper within the flower. Another overlooked factor is nighttime conditions. During dark periods, temperatures often drop, causing moisture in the air to condense on plant surfaces. This condensation can occur inside buds where airflow is weakest. Even brief periods of condensation can be enough to trigger fungal growth. Plant age also plays a role. As cannabis plants approach maturity, they naturally reduce water, movement and transpiration. This means moisture is released more slowly from tissues. Combined with dense flowers, this creates ideal conditions for fungal colonization late in the cycle. It's also important to understand that bud rot is not a sign of failure or incompetence. It occurs even in natural outdoor environments and affects many plant species beyond cannabis. Grapes, strawberries, tomatoes, and flowers all experience botrytis under similar conditions. Cannabis is simply another host. From a scientific standpoint, botrytis is an opportunistic organism. It does not attack healthy, dry, well-aerated tissue easily. It waits for the right conditions. When moisture, temperature, and structure align, it acts quickly. Another myth is that bud rot always starts from the outside. In reality, it often begins deep inside where moisture accumulates first. This is why external inspection alone is not always enough to detect early infection. Environmental consistency is also important. Rapid swings in temperature and humidity increases condensation risk. Stable environments reduce stress and moisture fluctuation, making fungal establishment more difficult. In summary, bud rot happens because fungal spores exploit moisture, limited airflow, dense plant structure, moderate temperatures, and stressed tissue. It is not caused by a single mistake, brand choice, or genetic flaw. It is the result of biological opportunity. Understanding bud rot as a biological process rather than a moral failure helps growers approach the topic with logic instead of panic. The fungus follows predictable rules. When those rules are understood, the fear around bud rot disappears. Bud rot is not mysterious. It is biology doing what biology does under the right conditions. Thanks for tuning in, legends. If you found this breakdown useful and want more myth-free cannabis education, stay locked in. This is Budfellas Calm, educational, and always within the guidelines signing.